Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news about him had spread through the whole countryside. He taught in the synagogues, and people praised him. He went to Nazareth, his hometown, and on the Sabbath day he went to that synagogue, as was his custom, and he stood up to read. And he read these words from Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. He rolled the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, sat down, and all looked at him. Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. The word from the Lord in the house of the Lord. I have to admit that every once in a while, I don't follow through on an original sermon program and plan, and that's what happened this time. We read them because it's habitual. Read them because it's important. The fact that Paul wrote to the church at Corinth, reminding them that they were an important part of the church of Jesus Christ. Now, sometimes we talk about this church and that church and the other church. What we forget is that every part of this church, every one of our churches, every one of us are part of the church of Jesus Christ. You can add any other letters, any other names you want, but if we realize who we are, that's exactly who we are. We had some training yesterday that I thought was rather unusual, and it adapted well to the message I wanted to bring, so we're going to switch gears a little bit, if I might. I want to play a little Family Feud. There was a survey of several thousands of people, and what were the three things that the people most wanted to hear? Anybody got a guess? What's the first thing you want to hear? My name, right? I want to know. Everybody knows my name. No. You are loved. You are forgiven. What's for supper? Three things. You are loved. You are forgiven. What's for supper? Oh, we can pontificate and we can get all theological about it, but it's really pretty darn simple. We want to know that we are loved by someone. And we are confident, we have great confidence in the fact that we are absolutely loved by Christ. Totally, absolutely. He gave himself up to die that we might know how much he loves you. Even God got in the act. If you can't read it from out there, get your eyes checked. It said, God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believeth might have life everlasting. You are forgiven. He died. He went on the cross so that you would know that you are forgiven, that nothing you can do, nothing you have ever done is bad enough that you can't be forgiven. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I dare everybody to be honest and put up their hand. How many of you out here remember some slight, something that happened in your life that you still remember that you really thought hurt you a lot at the time? Everybody? Anybody? All right. Now, if you go find that person who did that to you and you ask them about it, they won't even know it. But they've owned you for 40 years. Because you haven't forgiven. How can they be forgiven if you can't? How can you be forgiven if they aren't? Simple as that. And yeah, what's for supper? What's our favorite in this church? Oh, I don't mean the coffee hour. That's always right there. But we have communion. Because he invited us to his table. He invites us to come and put our feet under the table with him that he might get to know us intimately. That he might get to know us absolutely. That he might get to know us as who we really are. So that he can make us who he would have us be. You are loved. You are forgiven. What's for supper? It's the bread and the cup. It's the body and the blood. It's that which was the greatest gift that God could give to us. He gave to us His Son, that we might know those three things intimately in our hearts. And if we don't understand that, if we don't understand that forgiveness is fantastic, then we aren't able to forgive. And if you haven't forgiven that guy or that girl who did such a terrible thing to you, you haven't forgiven you for hating them all of this time. Let go. You can't change yesterday. It's always gone. It's not ours anymore. Give it up, that you might have freedom this day to understand what a precious gift it is to know that you are loved, you are forgiven, and you're invited to His table anytime you open your hearts, anytime you open your mind, anytime you open your spirit. Yeah, even we went to Perkins last night because I got home late from training and it was my turn to cook. And even in the booth at Perkins, there has to be just a moment or two when I can remember I've been invited to His table, which means He's seated at my table. I never dine without Him. I never dine without Him because I am forgiven. I am loved. He invited me to the table. What a gift. What a wonderful gift. What a fantastic gift He gave to us. Yeah, He read to the people in Nazareth, His neighbors, and said, I'm the Christ. And they rejected Him. We talk about that next week, so don't worry about finding that in the sermon or in the reading. It's not there. But the three things that people want most in life, they want to be forgiven. They want to be loved. And they want to know what's for supper. Because supper is that moment, that time of the day when you actually give yourself over to the people seated at the table with you. You don't just run in for a snack. You don't dine in honor of someone. You don't get fancy. Supper. Supper is when you let your hair down. Supper is when you love those around you. Supper is when you ought to pause to forgive all that's happened that day, because it's going to be a new day tomorrow. And you'll be able to insult everybody you need to tomorrow again and start over fresh every morning, because you are loved. You are forgiven. He wants you at His table. Amen. Go, knowing that you are loved. Go, knowing you are forgiven. Go, knowing that He has invited you this day, every day. Go in His peace. Amen. Amen.